So a lot of emotion about this. Yesterday in committee, the gentleman from Green stated that he arrived in Frankfurt in 2009, and in working with turnaround options that charter schools were brought up, and that there was significant opposition. And then he said, 12 years later, we still see opposition. They're wringing their hands and saying, if we only had more time. And he said, the time is now. Children and families have suffered enough. I wish the private option was there. And in the last 24 or so hours, I've really been reflecting on what have we done in Kentucky to improve private education in the last 12 years, and what have we done to damage it. Major legislation was passed in 2019 and 2020 regarding school safety, an extremely necessary endeavor following the shootings in Marshall County. Unfortunately, it has not been fully funded. The assessment and accountability system has been modified to have fewer sanctions and more assistance in 2017, 19, and 20. While generally beneficial, the changes have led to policy churn and little time for schools and districts to adjust. The accountability system continues to be driven by high-stakes standardized testing that leads to test-based instruction and does not reflect rich learning environments in which value is assigned to learning that cannot be quantified in a standardized test. Another thing that we did well was that we increased the compulsory school age to 18, and that was a good move for graduation rates. But there are other things, legislatively and through our budget, that we've decided that have adversely impacted public education. In 2018, the Kentucky Teacher Internship Program was eliminated. It provided support for first-year teachers and certainly improved the educational environment for our students. It was something that we knew worked and was modeled in other states. In 2018, teachers were no longer required to have a master's degree within the first 10 years of teaching, leading to a less trained workforce. So how have we shown that we value public education in our budget? SEEK funding gets accolades about how it's the highest level yet, but that's in raw dollars, because if we consider inflation-adjusted dollars, it is well below the original SEEK levels that were established in 1992. If SEEK had kept up with inflation, it would currently be $4,715 per student. In addition, due to eroding state funding, the shift in responsibility has been moved from the state to local districts. In 2009, education funding for KDE, which included SEEK, was 41.2% of the total general fund, while in 2020, it has decreased to 35.2%. In 2018, we budgeted $16.7 million for instructional resources and textbooks. In 2019-2020, $0 were budgeted, a decrease of potentially $33.4 million in materials for our students in the classrooms. Professional development was also eliminated from the 2019 and 20 budgets, with a decrease of $23.8 million in the amount that we were able to invest in the training of our educators. Until today, Kentucky has failed to fund all-day kindergarten or to fully fund the state school transportation formula, which is potentially a violation of the Kentucky constitutional requirement for an efficient system of common schools under the Rose decision. So I found an estimate that funding all-day kindergarten would cost $140 million. So I hope to see that in the budget. And fully funding school transportation would cost $162 million. Decreases in funding has led to school districts having to reduce their investment in staffing, student supports, enrichment opportunities, and instructional resources. In a 2018 report by the Kentucky Center for Economic Policy, the superintendent of Lee County described the impact of a lack of funding. He said they had a reduction of staff, classified and certified, facility needs, staff wearing multiple hats, increased expenditures, decreased revenue, no staff raises, class size increases, loss of programs, music and PE at the elementary level, and low morale due to funding needs. The need to provide an equality instructional program. And he said I could go on. What have we done to improve education in the classroom? What kind of changes have we made that would impact the suffering that students are apparently enduring, needing them to go to private schools? Have we surveyed the parents to find out why they are dissatisfied with public education? Bills to improve reading literacy have not moved through this chamber. My bill to study our high-stakes accountability system passed through committee, but didn't move this year. Bills regarding early childhood education have not moved. What are we doing to improve our public schools in which students seem to be suffering? Or are we breaking our public school system and then saying we need to pay for private education because our public school system is broken? The gentleman from Nelson 50 stated in committee today that continuing to do the same thing is insanity. I agree. Continuing to underfund public education and then blame public educators for not being able to meet the needs of their students is irrational. The question is whether we should move towards an equitable system of education for all children by fully funding public education, or, under the guise of choice, that we move towards schools that are more segregated, with poverty more concentrated in certain schools and community, while further amplifying the gap between the haves and the have-nots. I urge you to vote against this floor amendment. Thank you.